The unearthed Colossus. The twin sons of Mixora cast long shadows over the jagged mountain range known as the Shatter's Pine. To the archaeo-excavation team from the Veldari Institute of Ancient Technology, it was just another forgotten rock in the outer expanse, until the scanners started lying. Dr. Rallan Voss, a xenoarchaeologist with 10 years in the dust and ash of long-dead worlds, frowned as her datapad flickered again. "This isn't natural," she muttered, watching the geological mapping shift in real time. "There's symmetry, metallic density. Someone buried something big." The drones confirmed it within minutes. A massive structure buried beneath kilometers of rock, hidden like a bone under scar tissue. Not ruins, not scrap, a full vessel, buried deeper than anything should be, its outline more than a mile long. As the dig site erupted into a frenzy of activity, Rallan called in a priority broadcast to the Institute, unaware that her signal would trigger consequences far beyond Mixora skies. 3 days later, orbit above the planet was a traffic jam of curiosity, greed, and fear. Science vessels, corporate warships, mercenary cruisers, even cloaked scouts from empires that claimed neutrality. They all came to see the myth made metal. The structure was unmistakably human in design, archaic, brutalist, and massive. Its hull was covered in thick plating and deep scars from battles that predated modern galactic history. Etched along its side in a long-dead Terran dialect were 2 words, Obsidian Wrath. "No record of it in any archive," Rallan told the gathered council of observers, her voice tense. "But the alloy composition and EM resonance, it's human tech. Pre-Exodus era." "Impossible," hissed Ambassador Quarn of the Zethari Dominion. "Humans left the galactic stage over a millennium ago. They were finished." "No," said a new voice, calm and clipped. A hologram shimmered to life, a representative of the corporate syndicate Polaris Deepworks. "They didn't vanish. They withdrew. There's a difference." Speculation turned to alarm when the structure moved. It began as a low tremor beneath the excavation site. Machines jammed. Comms went dark. Then, without warning, the surrounding mountain folded inward, disintegrating into powder as massive retrothrusters flickered to life for the first time in centuries. The ship was waking up. Inside the Obsidian Wrath, systems rebooted one by one. Deep within the cryo-chambers, biosigns stabilized. The ship's AI, designated Aurora, evaluated threat parameters and initiated containment protocols. No current human command authority registered, defaulting to awakening the senior-most officer on board. The pod hissed open with a sound that hadn't been heard in 1,000 years. Captain Kael Trent, Terran Command, opened his eyes. Outside, chaos bloomed. Every orbiting ship tried to reposition. Many failed. One by one, scanners, guidance systems, and propulsion drives shorted out as the Obsidian Wrath's automated defense perimeter reactivated. The carrier didn't fire a single shot. It didn't need to. The ship's mere presence, its passive systems alone, shut down an entire planetary fleet. Rallan watched in horror and awe as the carrier, now fully visible and hovering in the air, cast a long shadow across the valley. "This isn't a warship," she whispered. "It's a goddamned apocalypse coffin." Across the galactic net, the images went viral within hours. The reactions were almost unanimous across the core systems and fringe colonies alike. Humans weren't extinct. They were buried. And now they were waking up. As the suns dipped below the horizon, casting Mixora into its violet dusk, the Obsidian Wrath slowly turned its bow to the stars. Engines began to glow. Its systems whispered to one another in old Terran code. Deep in its heart, Kael Trent stepped onto the bridge, surrounded by dust, ghosts, and power. "Status?" he asked hoarsely. Aurora's voice was smooth, synthetic, and strangely maternal. "Awake, Captain. Entire galaxy has eyes on us. Recommend course of action. Intimidation by demonstration." Kael stared at the stars for a long moment. "Let them look," he said. The Obsidian Wrath began to ascend. And somewhere, across hundreds of light-years, the galaxy began to tremble. The ghosts of Terra. The bridge of the Obsidian Wrath was a cathedral of cold steel and glowing interfaces, untouched by time yet brimming with it. Dust clung to ancient terminals. Dull red light pulsed from the core reactor, still recovering full output. But in the command chair, Captain Kael Trent sat upright, eyes scanning the data Aurora fed him across a wide arc of holograms. "Confirmed date," he said. "Stellar calendar matches extrapolation. 1143 years since last mission timestamp," Aurora replied. Kael exhaled slowly. Over 1,000 years. Earth was gone. His crew, what remained, was still frozen below. The galaxy he knew had become a museum of rumors and myths. And now he was awake. He made his way through the internal corridors, past dormant cryo-chambers and sealed weapons bays. Every footstep echoed. His breath fogged in the recycled air. The silence of the ship was unnatural, too complete. This vessel was meant for war. It had once housed over 50,000 personnel. Now, only he walked its halls. Kael stopped before a chamber labeled Primary Historical Core. He placed his hand on the DNA reader. The door hissed open. Inside, the room came alive with light and screens. Aurora had compiled a summary of galactic events from intercepted transmissions. Kael watched in grim silence as centuries played out in accelerated footage. The fall of the Terran Directorate, the dissolution of human influence, the rise of alien coalitions that carefully erased, or buried, human history. Galactic records refer to humanity as extinct, Aurora noted. Actual status, unknown. Last known Terran transmission, fragmented, dated 300 years after your stasis entry. Kael rubbed a hand down his face. So we didn't all die. Unclear. We disappeared. And that was the truth. Humanity hadn't been destroyed. It had chosen to vanish. It had all started after the Second Unification War, when humanity's dominance peaked. The Obsidian Wrath was one of 12 Judgment-class supercarriers, built not just to fight wars, but to end civilizations. Kael remembered that time too well. Planets silenced in minutes, fleets erased with gravitational shear bombs. The galaxy had begged for peace. And for the first time, humanity had listened. Earth issued the Silence Protocols, a directive to retreat, to seal their greatest weapons away, and disappear into the void. They became ghosts by design, removing themselves from a galaxy they had conquered too completely. Kael leaned back against the wall. We weren't supposed to wake up. Correct. Protocol X-09, reawakening is contingent on existential threat or external breach. Aurora paused. Our tomb was disturbed, Captain, by species not of Terran origin. So they dug too deep. Curious aliens had peeled back the coffin lid, and now the corpse stirred. Kael looked up at a projection of the galaxy. Red dots marked known active civilizations. Blue pings represented probes from the Obsidian Wrath, already mapping comm channels and political structures. Summary analysis, Aurora continued, indicates the galaxy is fragile. No unified command. Technology levels vary. Collective military strength insufficient to counter Obsidian-class vessel. Kael grimaced. You're telling me we could wipe the board with one ship? Easily. With minimal effort. But he wasn't here to conquer. He wasn't even sure what he was here to do. And yet, he couldn't ignore what he was. What this ship was. The galaxy didn't fear humanity because it forgot them. It feared them because it remembered. He returned to the bridge and stood in silence, watching alien signals scramble across nearby comms. News was spreading fast. The name Obsidian Wrath was already being translated in hundreds of tongues. Some whispered it like a curse, others like a prophecy. Kael opened a channel, short-range, unencrypted. He spoke in Standard Galactic. This is Captain Kael Trent of the Terran Directorate. I do not seek war, but I will not surrender. Do not test this vessel. Then he closed the channel. Back in the cryo chamber, Aurora finished reviving a dozen elite crew members, engineers, security officers, navigators. The rest would remain frozen, for now. They awoke to a world that had forgotten them. But as their training reasserted itself and they assumed their stations, the Obsidian Wrath finally began to feel like it was alive again. Kael stood at the center of the bridge, gazing into a future written in starlight and caution. Let's see who remembers the monsters we were, he said quietly. Correction, Captain, Aurora whispered. Not monsters. Apex predators. And we just stepped back into the jungle. First contact, again. The alien fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, 67 warships bearing the insignias of 5 major empires and 3 neutral blocks. From sleek Concord diplomatic frigates to massive Zethary dreadnoughts, they hung in orbit over Mixora like a net of iron and fire. Their message was clear: the galaxy would not ignore the Obsidian Wrath. Captain Kael Trent watched them from the command deck, arms crossed, flanked by his newly awakened officers. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were sharp. Calculating. Incoming transmission, Aurora said. High Council channel. Multi-species diplomatic encryption. Translating. The main display flared to life. A seven-eyed alien in silver robes spoke first, Ambassador Vren of the Galactic Concord. Unidentified human vessel. You are in violation of post-Terran armament treaties. Your activation poses a threat to galactic stability. You will power down and submit to inspection or face immediate military response. Kael didn't respond right away. He glanced at his crew. Lieutenant Arya Knox, Communications. Commander Juno Taggart, Tactical Systems. Sergeant Rourke, Security. All had been handpicked over a millennium ago. None flinched. Captain, Aurora said quietly, defensive systems at 82%. They are posturing. He finally stepped forward. This is Captain Kael Trent of the Terran Directorate. Your treaties were written after we left. We do not recognize their authority. He leaned closer. You're standing in the shadow of a warship that once erased empires. Choose your next move carefully. He cut the channel. The first volley came 6 minutes later. A Concord cruiser launched a precision strike, a test shot. A high-yield plasma spear, aimed at the Obsidian Wrath's primary hull. It never landed. The carrier's kinetic lattice field absorbed it without flickering. In response, the ship's defense AI activated the grid. Without a single order from Kael, dozens of microsatellites shot from hidden ports along the hull. They formed a pattern around the ship, silent, inert-looking, until the second wave of enemy fire arrived. Then the grid lit up. Thousands of projectiles, missiles, and beams vanished mid-flight. Some dissolved. Others reversed course, redirected with quantum entanglement fields. 2 enemy ships were hit by their own weapons and exploded before they could raise shields. Aurora spoke, flat and cold. Phase 1 complete. 60% of enemy fleet disabled. No human casualties. Kael stared at the holographic display as alien ships twisted and broke apart in orbit. He hadn't fired a single shot. Inside the Concord command cruiser, panic took hold. Retreat! Pull back! Vren shouted. Get us out of firing range. But they haven't fired anything. That's the problem. Vren roared. They don't need to. Across the fleet, emergency jump drives flared to life. Ships scrambled to escape the kill zone. Some didn't make it. The Obsidian Wrath tracked every engine signature, every movement. And it remembered. Back on the carrier's bridge, Kael turned to his crew. We could have wiped them out, Rourke said quietly. Kael nodded. But we didn't. Taggart crossed her arms. They won't see it that way. They'll see weakness. No, Kael said. They'll see mercy. And that's far more terrifying. Hours later, the galaxy was ablaze with the news. Footage of the event flooded the data streams. Civilizations that hadn't seen war in generations suddenly remembered the color of fear. One broadcast stood out above the rest, a message sent from the Obsidian Wrath itself. Kael's face appeared, calm and grim. This ship is not here to conquer. But if you threaten us again, we will show you what extinction looks like. Humanity left the galaxy for peace. You dug up what we buried. Now you'll live with the consequences. Across dozens of systems, emergency councils convened. Treaties were revised overnight. War simulations were run. None ended well. A new name began to trend across every language. The Apex returned. Some species prayed. Others prepared. But all agreed on one truth. The galaxy would never be the same again. And the Obsidian Wrath had not even left orbit. A blade in the dark. The carrier drifted in high orbit over Mixora, silent and colossal. The dust of the excavation site had barely settled, but already the Obsidian Wrath had become a symbol of power, of mystery, of fear. Captain Kael Trent knew what came next. Diplomacy was theater. Warnings had been given. Fleets had scattered. But history was stubborn, and power always drew blood. Someone, somewhere, would try to kill them. Assassins? Commander Taggart asked, scanning the encrypted intelligence Aurora had harvested from intercepted alien comms. Kael nodded. Multiple factions. The Zethari. The Concord. Even rogue syndicate agents. They're planning Black Ops strikes. Small teams. Infiltration. They think we're vulnerable. Taggart smirked. Let them come. Kael didn't share her amusement. 3 vessels en route, Aurora added. Disguised as civilian freighters. Trajectories suggest rendezvous above Northern Hemisphere. Covert boarding protocols detected. Kael turned to Sergeant Rourke. Prep the cordon. No lethal force unless they fire first. Let them step inside. Baited trap? Rourke asked, his eyes glinting with anticipation. Kael gave a grim nod. Let's remind them why ghosts don't stay buried. The infiltration began at 0300 ship time. 3 stealth pods slipped through the ship's passive perimeter, landing with surgical precision along engineering sub-access ports. The intruders moved fast, thermal-cloaked, lightly armed, coordinated. They didn't realize they were being herded. Aurora sealed corridors behind them, subtly adjusting pressure and magnetic flow to guide their steps. Internal sensors tracked heartbeat, movement, weapon signatures. By the time the 3rd team reached the reactor chamber, Rourke and his operatives had them boxed in. A pulse grenade exploded in the hallway, dropping 2 attackers. A firefight ignited, brief, brutal, and over in 20 seconds. The survivors found themselves locked in a containment sphere, staring down the barrels of old Earth kinetic rifles. Rourke cracked his neck. Welcome aboard. Kael stood in the brig, staring at the captured operatives. None were human. Zethari, Jukari, and 1 odd hybrid, likely corporate bred. They glared at him through the cell's stasis field. You broke into a tomb, Kael said, his voice calm. You tried to kill what was inside. You failed. One of the Zethari hissed. We had to. Your kind. You bring imbalance. We were gone, Kael replied. You made us return. He turned to leave. You think the galaxy will bow again? The hybrid spat. You're 1 ship. 1 ghost. You think fear will win you peace? Kael paused. No. Not fear, he said. Understanding. He gestured, and the cell's stasis dropped. Rourke stepped forward with a data tablet. We're uploading everything into their systems, Kael said. Battle records. Tactical doctrine. Footage of every world we ever erased. The alien operatives looked stunned. You'll return to your governments, Kael continued, not as prisoners, but as witnesses. Let them see the truth. We didn't come back to rule. We came back to remind you what ruled before. Later, in the war room, Kael stood before a massive galactic map. A dozen red markers blinked, locations where other Obsidian-class vessels had been hidden. I buried 11 sisters, he said quietly. Each one a sleeping god. Commander Taggart stepped forward. If even half survived. They didn't, Kael cut in. The silence protocol was brutal. Most were scuttled. Some were sabotaged to prevent misuse. He pointed to 1 blinking blue signal. But 1, Aegis Sol, might still be intact. If we reach her, we might find the rest of the command staff. Maybe Earth's last orders. Taggart frowned. That's deep syndicate space. We'd be walking into a war zone. Kael gave her a sharp look. We've already walked out of our grave. The war zone will walk into us. Back in orbit, alien broadcasts spread like wildfire. Footage of the failed assassination. Clips of the alien agents being released unharmed. Data packets containing logs of ancient Terran wars. The effect was devastating. Worlds that once doubted now trembled. Alliances cracked. Neutral species went dark. A new fear had taken root, not from what humanity was, but from what it had chosen not to be, a monster left untouched, still breathing. The term used in countless reports now had weight. Apex diplomacy. Speak softly. Carry a planet killer. As the Obsidian Wrath prepared to jump to deep space, Kael stood at the helm. One ship, he said to no one in particular, was never meant to fight the galaxy. Aurora responded, almost softly. Then it's a good thing the galaxy already lost. The stars stretched before them. Humanity had returned. Not with legions. Not with flags. But with one ship, a mission, and the echo of a choice the galaxy could no longer ignore. Would you like a short epilogue or help turning this into a full novella draft? You said. Description and hashtags. ChatGPT said. Here's a story description and relevant hashtags for your HFY, Humanity, F*****, yeah, story titled. Buried for centuries, a human supercarrier rises, and the galaxy panics.